Ever heard of aptamers?
Aptamers.
Yeah, they're like microscopic smart bombs
Okay.
engineered to hunt down and lock onto like specific molecules in your body.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like having this team of uh, tiny programmable assassins, but they only target the bad guys.
Wow.
That's what we're diving into today.
I'm intrigued, for sure.
Yeah, why these minuscule molecules are making huge waves in the fight against cancer.
It's like science fiction is becoming a reality. And you're right, the potential is big, huge. Aptamers, they're like a cross between a guided missile and a lockpick, but teeny tiny, all in one small package, made of DNA or RNA.
Okay, wait, back up a sec. DNA and RNA, those are the things our genes are made of. How do they go from like the building blocks of life to these incredible cancer-fighting molecules?
That's the real ingenuity right there. We're not talking about the naturally occurring DNA or RNA here. Aptamers, they're designed, engineered in the lab through a very specific process. It's called SELEX.
SELEX?
Yeah. Stands for Systematic Evolution of Ligands by Exponential Enrichment.
Catchy.
It sounds very complicated, I know, but just picture this.
Okay.
We create this massive library of DNA or RNA sequences, right?
Okay.
Each one is unique, one of a kind, its own special combination.
Okay.
Kind of like giving each molecule its own fingerprint.
So it's like a molecular lottery, hoping to hit the jackpot with the right sequence.
It's more like a really, really selective talent show.
Okay.
Only the best of the best get through.
Okay.
So we expose this entire library to our target, right? Yep. And in this case, it's something, specific that's found on cancer cells.
Okay.
The molecules with, the strongest attraction, the ones that really latch on, the best binders, those are the ones that get selected.
Makes sense.
And we amplify them. We make more of those.
Okay.
We do this over and over and over again, each round, getting rid of the weaker links, right? And then honing in on the ones that just have this, almost magnetic attraction to the target.
Survival of the fittest, but at a molecular level.
Exactly.
So it's like breeding the ultimate molecular assassins. But how do they actually latch on to their targets? With such precision, I mean.
So it all comes down to their shape.
Oh, yeah.
See, aptamers, they're not just like straight lines. They fold. They fold into these really unique three-dimensional structures. And those shapes are made to perfectly fit their target molecules, like a key in a lock.
Oh, okay.
That's how we get that incredible specificity that we've been talking about, They go after only the desired molecules.
Yeah.
They leave everything else alone.
So they're like tiny programmable grappling hooks latching onto only the bad guys. And that's a big advantage over traditional therapies.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Think about it like this, right? Traditional cancer treatments, chemo, radiation, they're kind of like carpet bombing a city.
To take out one building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get it, to take out one building. Aptamers, though, they're more like snipers. They take out the target.
Very precise.
Incredibly precise and with minimal collateral damage.
So we're talking about fewer side effects for patients, potentially, like way better outcomes, faster recovery times, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the whole goal.
That's huge. But what else makes aptamers so revolutionary? What sets them apart from other therapies, practically speaking,
Well, for starters, they're really, really small, and that's a huge advantage. Imagine trying to navigate through a crowded city, right?
Right.
The smaller you are, the easier it is to slip through traffic, get where you need to go quickly.
Okay, so they can slip past obstacles and get to their targets faster, more efficiently. And some of those targets are really hard to access, like if they're deep within a tumor or something.
Precisely. And not only can they penetrate tissues better, but their size also makes them, they're less irritating to the immune system.
Yeah.
Some larger therapies, they can trigger what's essentially a molecular alarm system in the body, so your body starts fighting back, and that leads to all sorts of unwanted side effects.
Aptamers, though, they kind of fly under the radar,
So less of a chance of an immune system freak out. That's another point for Team Aptamer.
Definitely.
But what about the cost? I mean, these things sound incredibly complex to create. Are we talking about, treatments that only a select few will be able to afford?
That's another area where aptamers really shine. See, unlike some therapies that rely on these really complex biological systems for production, aptamers, they can be chemically synthesized.
Okay.
It's like building a car in a factory, versus handcrafting each part from scratch.
So mass production instead of these, bespoke creations.
Exactly.
That makes them much more scalable and probably more affordable for the people who really need them. Okay. This is already blowing my mind. But there has to be more.
Well, there's always more. What other tricks do these tiny molecules have up their sleeve? This is incredible. Tiny programmable molecules that can, like, outmaneuver our body's defenses, deliver treatments with pinpoint accuracy,
It's pretty amazing stuff.
and, like, potentially be made at a fraction of the cost of traditional therapies. But cancer cells are crafty.
That's for sure.
They're notorious for, like, finding ways to outsmart even our most powerful treatments. So how do aptamers stack up against one of cancer's biggest challenges? Drug resistance.
That is the million-dollar question, and the answer, I think, is incredibly exciting. One of the most promising things about aptamers is this potential to help us overcome that very hurdle, drug resistance.
Okay, color me intrigued. How do they do that? Are we talking about, like, fighting fire with fire, but on, like, a molecular level?
Kind of, yeah. You see, cancer cells, they can develop resistance to drugs for all sorts of reasons. Sometimes they evolve to actually pump the drugs out
Really?
before they can even do any damage.
Wow.
Or they might find ways to basically bypass those pathways that the drugs are trying to target.
So it's like they're building a fortress,
Yeah.
and our current treatments are having trouble breaking through.
Yeah, you could say that.
So how do aptamers change the game?
Imagine you're trying to, like, send a message to someone inside a really, really heavily guarded fortress.
Okay.
You could stand outside and shout, but, like, chances are your message isn't going to get through.
Right.
But what if you could, like, sneak your messenger right inside past all the guards?
Yeah, okay.
That's what aptamers can do
Right.
for drug delivery.
So we're talking about a total paradigm shift here. Instead of using, like, brute force, it's more about precision, strategy,
You got it.
to kind of, like, outmaneuver the defenses from within. Give me the specifics. How does this actually work in the real world?
Well, one really promising approach uses aptamers to deliver the drugs right to the cancer cells. And that means they're minimizing the exposure to healthy cells. So that actually reduces the likelihood of that resistance developing in the first place.
Okay.
And by zeroing in on receptors that are mostly found on cancer cells, we're making sure that the drug is only going where it's supposed to go.
So it's like attaching a GPS to a delivery truck. It's going to the right address. It's not making any unnecessary stops. Love that analogy. No more collateral damage, just targeted strikes on, like, the bad guys. What other, like, strategies are researchers looking at with aptamers when it comes to drug resistance?
Another really cool avenue, we're looking at targeting those specific signaling pathways.
Okay.
You know, the ones that the cancer cells use to, like, hide from the treatment? So it's like cutting off the communication lines inside that fortress that we were talking about.
Oh, I see.
Disrupt those signals, and then suddenly it's much harder for them to evade treatment.
Oh, that's really interesting. So they can't, like, organize.
Exactly.
They're cut off.
Exactly. For example, there's this pathway called the ERK pathway, and it plays a huge role in how cancer cells resist certain drugs. Aptamers, though, they can be designed to interfere with this pathway specifically, and that makes the cancer cells, vulnerable again.
So it's about staying one step ahead. We're figuring out their escape routes, and then we're setting up roadblocks to, like, cut them off at the pass.
I like the way you think.
This is incredible. Are there, like, specific aptamers that have really shown promise? I mean, in tackling this drug resistance issue in this way. So we're talking about turning the tide against drug resistance, delivering these treatments with, like, pinpoint accuracy.
It's really exciting.
And maybe even, like, preventing it from even starting in the first place.
The potential is huge.
This is revolutionary. But let's get down to, like, brass tacks.
Okay.
What are some, like, real-world examples of tamers in action? Are we talking about, like, experimental treatments, or is this already being used in, in the clinic?
Oh, we're definitely moving from the lab to the real world, which is, I think, what makes this field so exciting,
Right.
One really promising thing we're working on is creating something called targeted drug conjugates.
Targeted drug conjugates.
Yeah. So picture this, right?
Okay.
We take the aptamer, our little molecular smart bomb,
Right.
and we attach it to a payload of, really powerful anti-cancer drugs.
Oh, so it's like we're attaching a warhead to our guided missile.
Yeah.
But instead of causing, widespread destruction, this warhead is designed to only hit those cancer cells.
You got it. That's exactly it. These aptamer drug conjugates, they, like, hunt down and bind to, they bind to these really specific molecules.
Right.
And those molecules are only found on the surface of the cancer cells. It's like a key fitting into a lock.
Right.
And then, bam, Once they're locked on, they deliver that payload right where it needs to go. And that means less damage to the healthy cells around it.
This is amazing. Are there any specific aptamer drug conjugates that are looking especially hopeful? Give me some names.
Yeah, so there's one called AS1411,
Okay.
and it's been creating quite a buzz.
AS1411.
Yeah, it targets a protein called nucleolinin, and this protein is everywhere
Okay.
on the surface of a lot of different types of cancer cells, but, and this is the key, it's much less common in healthy cells.
This is like having a homing beacon that's practically, exclusive to the cancer cells.
Yeah,
We're talking about a very target-rich environment.
exactly.
So what are the scientists seeing with AS1411? What's going on?
It's still early days.
Right.
But early clinical trials are showing it can actually get those drugs to the tumor,
Wow.
which is really important, and it's showing, I think, the most promise so far in acute myeloid leukemia,
Okay.
which is a type of blood cancer.
Right.
And then there's another really interesting one, an aptamer called TDM1.
TDM1?
Yeah, and it goes after this protein called HER2, which you often find in breast cancer cells. And the really exciting thing, TDM1, it's actually already been approved
Oh,
for use in certain types of breast cancer, and it's doing really well.
that's incredible. So we're already seeing these aptamer-based treatments making a real difference in how we do cancer. So what's next? What does the future hold for aptamers?
The possibilities are kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it.
Okay.
Imagine being able to analyze a person's tumor,
Right.
and we figure out exactly what makes it tick, what its weaknesses are, and then we design an aptamer-based therapy just for them.
So we're talking about personalized medicine.
Exactly.
But on a whole other level, no more, one size fits all. We're tailoring those treatments to a person's unique molecular makeup.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there.
Okay.
Researchers are also looking at how to use aptamers to deliver other things.
Okay.
Things like gene editing tools or even immunotherapy agents.
Wow.
Things that can help the body actually fight the cancer itself.
This is incredible. It sounds like aptamers could totally change everything, not just how we treat cancer, but medicine as we know it.
I think so.
Before we wrap up, any final thoughts for our listeners who are now, just like me, totally captivated by these tiny but mighty molecules?
I think the big takeaway here is that we are really on the edge of something huge in medicine.
Right.
Aptamers, they're not just a small tweak.
Right.
They're a total, fundamental shift in how we think about how we treat diseases. They offer this incredible level of, precision, the potential for personalization. It's really amazing.
It really is. It's been amazing exploring this world of aptamers with you.
It's been fun.
I don't know about you, but I am so curious to see what the future holds, what we discover.
Me too. The future is bright.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.